Guitar Wishes and your guitar wish of the day. This is Lee. Once again, here we are at our beautiful Guitar Wishes facility in downtown Lincoln, North Carolina with the legendary Artemis Pyle. Artemis, how are you?
How you doing, Lee? Man, your radio voice just shocked me.
Oh, wow.
But you're right. This is an incredible place. Guitar Wishes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really happy to be able to participate.
Well, I tell you what, it's an honor to have you in the store here. There's a lot going on in your world. You got a movie out, a soundtrack out. I really want to hit on those things. And first off, let's start with the movie. So the movie just came out on the 30th of July, correct?
June.
30th of June.
As they say in the business, we dropped it June 30th.
Dropped June 30th. It's called Street Survivor, the true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash.
Street Survivors
Mm-hmm.
with an S.
Mm-hmm.
The true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane crash. That is correct.
Now, tell me about the process of getting. I know there was a lot of legal battles, but the original concept for the film and those things. When did you first begin to think of a movie? And tell me from there how it came to be.
Well, I mean, there's been thoughts of a Lynyrd Skynyrd movie
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. I heard that Ron Howard and even Oliver Stone had made an inquiry with, I believe it was Judy Van Zandt, to do a movie about Lynyrd Skynyrd. But Judy demanded all of the money, all of the control, and wanted the movie to only be about Ronnie Van Zant, mm-hmm. which Ronnie Van Zant himself would say, if we're going to do a movie about Lynyrd Skynyrd, it's got to be more than me. Ronnie knew that he was the prolific writer. Ronnie knew that he was the impetus of the band, that it was his vision,
right,
and everything. But he was all about his band. And so anyway, I believe Oliver Stone and Ron Howard, who I met one time on Martha's Vineyard Island, Opie, mm-hmm. and I met he and his wife. And but I think both of those major producers and directors passed because they didn't want to get involved with the wife of a guy that was in a band.
Right.
So years went by and everything. And one day I got a call from my little record company. And I say little because they're kind of a mom and pop. And, you know, they're in Los Angeles where there's these huge record companies. But I've been to their offices. They're on the first floor in a nice little area. They've got, great security. They've got a nice office, Cleopatra, a lot of Egyptian stuff on the wall. And they do business all over the world. They did business with Charlie Daniels. Mm-hmm. They distribute all over the world as a record company. And they had done a couple of little low-budget movies, I think a zombie movie or something. But they were mostly a record company. And I've been with them for a while. I did my last album with them, which was called Artemis Venomous. And I did it in Nashville, Tennessee, at a little studio outside of Nashville. And my plan was to take 5 years to do it. I didn't care. I wasn't going to try to rush it. I just wanted to make it good.
Sure.
But my producer at the time pushed me into releasing my album prematurely because I was being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Lynyrd Skynyrd,
right,
in 2006. And he said, man, we got to release the album right now. I said, man, it's not even mastered. And I'm not through with my vocals because I'm not a writer. I'm not a singer. So I had to work hard on this record. Mm-hmm. As a solo record, I needed to sing and write those songs.
Right.
So I pushed myself. And the first song on the album that I recorded was called Blood-Sucking Weasel Attorneys. Mm-hmm. And I want to make it very clear, I wanted to be an attorney. I just wasn't smart enough. There are a lot of bad attorneys, but there's also a lot of great attorneys. that do stuff for children and the environment. And so I wanted to be one of those guys, but I didn't want somebody's life in my hands when I'm a flake, and I couldn't really remember case law that would save this guy's life. So I took some pre-law courses at Tennessee University, and then I went to Ohio State University. But I realized I'm just not a student. I'm a drummer, I'm a natural drummer. I rode horses when I was little, and I ran bulldozers, and all those rhythms were set up underneath me. When I was born in 1948, the doctor, like that, and when he went, I went 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the downbeat. So it was like 2, 3, 4, whang. And I'm a natural drummer. I pick up rhythms from everything, and I love that. Now, I have 8 children and grandchildren, and I always start them off on drums because you have to learn time. But all of them play guitars and keyboards and trombone, which is one of my favorite instruments. So, I've got a whole musical family. So one day I get a call from Cleopatra, and they wanted to meet me in Nashville, Tennessee. So I thought what they wanted from me was to write music for a movie that they were doing. Hey, Artemis, you're one of our clients. You're one of on our record label. Why don't you write some music for this movie? So at first I didn't realize. Then I met them in Nashville. There was a big buyers convention, music buyers convention, and I met them at this hotel downtown. And it suddenly became clear to me that they wanted to do the movie of the plane crash. And I was like, you guys you're talking about doing the movie about the plane crash. And they said, yeah, you know the story better than anyone. You're a pilot. You flew that plane. Your father was a pilot. He was killed in a plane crash. All your friends were killed in a plane crash. You've been in 3 airplane crashes. So we figure you're qualified to tell the story.
Right.
And I said, you are. So that was the first time there in Nashville. And then it kind of blossomed. And then the next thing, Rolling Stone picked up on it. And they put out this big blurb, Artemis Pyle writes screenplay to new movie, and they gave me all this credit, and everything way beyond what I would ask for.
Right.
Because with the movie, I didn't ask for a single dime. I wanted the story to be told.
Right.
Skynyrd fans are not getting any younger. I'm not. And I wanted people to know what we went through on that fateful day and that fateful night. And I thought it was important. So when I negotiated for my book that I finished, it's a finished book, and the movie, I never asked for one single dime.
Right.
And they, both CEOs from my book and the movie, they testified to that in court because they tried to use that against me when Judy Van Zandt was trying, he's doing this to make a bunch of money. I'd be okay to make some money on something, but I didn't ask for a dime.
Right.
And that went a long way in court.
Right.
So, this blurb comes out, and it's in Rolling Stone, and it's in some other stuff, and I was feeling pretty good, like, yeah, I was thumbing my Gallisters, That's suspenders, by the way, for you younger guys. And I said, this is great. Well, that put out the red flag, that put out the thing, and Judy got a hold of it. Instead of calling me and saying, Artemis, because I had called Vector Management. If Ronnie Van Zandt is not your lead singer,
right.
It's not Leonard Skynyrd. Right. It's something else. And I would never call my band Leonard Skynyrd. It's called All Points Bulletin, APB, Artemis Pyle Band, All Possible Bullshit. At APB. And I would never say that. But we do Skynyrd music. My band, my guys from Asheville, play Leonard Skynyrd music better than any band in the world.
Right.
And I'm so proud of them because they do it with accuracy and respect and honor. And that's the way these songs should be played. Ballad of Curtis Lowe, Simple Man, That Smell, all these songs, they mean something. And so, Judy, instead of talking to me and coming to the table and let's make a movie together, she immediately attacked me with some $1,000 an hour attorneys from New York City.
Right.
And so they sent me a stack of lawsuit about this tall off the front porch. I heard a big plop. I was in Black Mountain, North Carolina, and I heard a big thump, and I opened the front door, and there's a 3-foot high stack of lawsuit in FedEx boxes going, "You're a poo-poo face. We hate you. You can't do this. Shamey shame," and all this stuff. And I'm like, what? So anyway, started reading. I'm going, this is outrageous. So Cleopatra hung in there at all costs. They wanted to do this movie, and they flew me to LA about 5 times, to sit down and work on the screenplay with Jared Cohn, the director, who did an incredible job. And I sat with him for 22 hours, 2 11-hour days. And I went through what happened, and I cried, I laughed, I screamed, I punched walls. I scared Jared. Because there's a few times when I was just overwhelmed with emotion, but I was telling him the story. He took those 22 hours and made a script out of it. And, the movie is finished. I'm very proud of it, with what we did, with what we had. And, we told the story accurately, the best way that we could.
Right.
In the first 10 minutes of the movie, I smoked 20 joints, and there's at least 10 naked girls. So I wanted to keep it real, and because that's the way it was. And Judy goes, "Well, I've read the script, and I don't like all that nudity." And I said, "Judy, you never came to any of our shows. When we play stadiums for 150,000 people, dozens of these things, people would take off all their clothes, and they'd jump up on stage, dodge security, and then run across the stage butt naked so they could tell their grandchildren, 'I ran butt naked across the stage when Skynyrd was doing Freebird.' Yep, I did that." Now, we loved it when the girls did it. Not so much when the guys did it. We weren't really thrilled. One guy, we were playing in, opened up for Peter Frampton. There's about 120,000 people. And this one dude got butt naked and got through security and ran out to the middle of the stage, right in front of my drums. And he stopped dead. And he turned and looked at the crowd. I guess he'd never stared at 120,000 people before, from the vantage point of where Ronnie Van Zant stood. And he's looking at him, and he froze. And I'm talking, I don't know what kind of drugs he was on. He might have just gotten out of the pool, but I wouldn't have stood there in front of 120,000 people like that, but he froze. He wasn't moving, and Ronnie wasn't going to touch him. And nobody in the band, we were busy playing Freebird. We weren't going to go out there and grab him somewhere. So finally security came out, and they tackled him. And, we didn't like people getting hurt or tackled or hurt,
right,
pushed off stage and beat up. I didn't. But they grabbed this guy. And, George Costanza, right? Shrinkage! But so that stuff happened all the time. And I said, "Judy, there was nudity. The girls in those days, with not just Lynyrd Skynyrd, but every band that was out there, they'd flash. And of course the bands loved it. The guys loved it. And we played with Stevie Nicks a lot, and Fleetwood Mac and different, and they thought it was hilarious. So anyway, the nudity is in the movie because that's the way it was.
Right.
And I smoked at least 10 doobies because that's the way it was. And, and so doing the movie, it was not easy, but the young men and women that portrayed all the band members, and I had to kind of focus the movie on my character and my relationship with Ronnie.
Right.
And other things. The road crew and our pilots and co-pilot and what have it, that was all part of it. But I had to kind of make it my story so we wouldn't get hit with another lawsuit.
Sure.
And So that's how the movie, from that night in Nashville, and then flying out to L.A. and working with the actors. I mean, I gave all of these young actors and actresses my number, and they could call me L.A. time in Black Mountain, North Carolina. I live in Morganton now on a 50-acre farm a doctor friend of mine has. But I was living there in Black Mountain at the time, and they'd call me L.A. time all hours of the night
Yeah.
and day, and say, Artemis, I'm going over this part of the script, and what would Leon do if we were like this, and what would Ronnie say, and the girls, our backup singers that played Cassie and Leslie and JoJo,
Right.
they would call me and say what would their reaction be, and I'd tell them exactly, to the best of my knowledge.
Right.
And then we had a girl that played my wife, because my wife had a pivotal role in the movie, because it's when I got the phone call from Ronnie, and Ronnie's going, I want you to come down and play with us in Atlanta.
Right.
At Alex Cooley's Electric Ballroom on Peachtree and blah, 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 and that's all in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so the girl called me and she goes, how do you want your wife portrayed? And I said, my wife was loved by everybody in the band and the crew. And I said, portray her as just the sweetest little Southern belle you've ever heard of. And that's the way she did it.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, after, we're still very good friends. And I married her when I was a sergeant in the Marines, and I got married in dress blues. No, I was a corporal at the time, 2 stripes and crossed rifles. I made sergeant shortly thereafter, and then I got busted for punching another sergeant, and then I got sergeant back. But Patricia, my wife, was portrayed perfectly in the movie, and that meant a lot to me. Getting my father in the movie and making sure that, what you mentioned when Alan and I were smoking a doobie at the door when they were trying to crank up the right engine on our plane before the last flight, and they show my dad kind of ghostly in the distance. That is the last time I saw my dad. And I love the airplane they used in the movie. It was an old kind of a biplane tail dragger, and that wasn't in real life, but they kind of put that in there.
Yeah.
And my dad kind of is a ghost, and he's smoking a cigarette, because everybody back in those days, I love old black and white movies like
Right.
Humphrey Bogart, but everybody in the movie is chain smoking cigarettes the entire time, like that. It just makes me sick watching it, but that's the way it was,
That's the way it was. Yeah.
So, my dad smoking a cigarette in there. So I got my dad in the movie, his name in the credits portrayed. Ed King, that co-wrote Sweet Home Alabama, I got him in the movie.
Right.
Because he wrote a song with a friend of mine from Nashville. It's an instrumental called In Memory Of. And I got Ed in there, because that was important to me. So, the story of the movie, when you get the package, there is a behind the scenes of the making of the movie.
Right.
You should watch that sometime, because it's really, with the Blu-ray and the DVD and the CD, and then the vinyl, it's coming on vinyl on an LP. Right. It's blue vinyl and it's white vinyl. So
it's beautiful.
There's 22 minutes per side. We didn't have room for everything.
Right.
But it's really cool. And the guy that does Call Me the Breeze, we used that in the movie because we were allowed to buy the licensing and use the song.
Sure.
Because it wasn't Skinnerd.
Right.
It was J.J. Cale, as you mentioned before.
Right.
And that was Pat Travers. That was Pat that sang and played. And his band, man, they killed. My band could have done that. I was kind of mad for a minute that they didn't ask my band to go ahead and do it, because we do it really well. But Pat Travers, man, he smoked a guitar solo, and he sang it really cool, and he does something at the end where, Call Me Breeze, and he does that little whole note there that Ronnie did.
Yeah.
And they did a great job on it. And the keyboard player that played the solo on that, he nailed Billy Powell. Billy Powell. And Billy always used to say before we get on stage, Billy'd come up and he'd go, all right, everybody, get ready to man your instruments. And he was such a character. I do a great Billy Powell.
I got to tell you, the movie itself, it's beautifully made. And I think it was very, very well done. And we talked before about it being kind of a look through your eyes at that time period in Leonard Skinner. And I think that if it had tried to be a bigger movie, it would have lost some of the personal touch that it does have looking through your eyes. It's beautifully made. I think it's really, really well done. And I'm super excited about the soundtrack.
Thank you.
You know, you again, you didn't use any Skinner, but you wrote, your kids are on that soundtrack. One of your sons has a song, let's see, as soon as when it's the section of the movie when the two black cars pull up right before they're about to take off. That's a beautiful piece of music right there.
Well, that's a pivotal part of the movie because we're coming up to our plane to board for the last time before the plane crash. And we had played in Greenville, South Carolina the night before, and that's the last time that Ronnie ever sang Freebird.
Right.
And that's significant to me. And I've tried to get a promoter in Greenville to do an annual show to raise money for children or the police or you know, some kind of program, cancer or something, because it's the last place that Ronnie ever sang Freebird, and that's significant. And but we haven't been able to do that and do it annually,
right,
and everything. We haven't started that yet, but I will. I'll find somebody. But the song is called Southern Feeling, and my son Marshall, who is 44, Marshall wrote that song. And the thing about it is, the hook of the song is live each day like it could be the last day of your life, which is significant, especially when we pulled up in the limousines and my wife and I were in one of my Jeeps. I have a Jeep fleet. I love Jeeps. And you know what Jeep stands for, right? Just empty every pocket. So I drove up, you know, with Pat, we drove up in that black Jeep to the plane, and Marshall's song is playing. And it was a very pivotal, significant part of the movie because that's the last time we boarded.
Right.
So Marshall is a songwriter and an amazing one, and plays drums, of course, but he plays guitar. He just picked up a new SG. And from Jerry Lida, our guitar player for APB,
right,
has a place in Asheville called Music City. And he does like you guys. He goes out and he picks really special guitars. He doesn't just order them out of a box off the shelf. You know,
right,
he makes sure that he has quality stock like you guys do. Yeah. And this is an incredible facility. But then my son Chris wrote 4 songs for the movie. And he's my oldest son. He's 48, and he's amazing. And both Chris and Marshall lived in Jerusalem, Israel, with me. When I was going to school, I lived in the castle of King David on Mount Zion. And I'm a Gentile, but I was studying Torah, which is Old Testament plus, and Leviticus and physics. And I was studying with about 300 rabbis. And I was a bodyguard to them as well because I'm Marine Corps, and I'm trained on all weapons. And, you know, I felt good. I felt like as a Gentile, I was doing something for the Jewish people. And I also had a lot of young Arab friends that loved me because I'm a drummer. Yeah. And I had this big set of drums that was built in Nashville, and I had them shipped over to Jerusalem. And I'd do these little concerts. You know, at the castle of King David, yeah, which is a 3,000-year-old Crusader castle built by the Romans, the Turks, and the Crusaders.
Yeah.
And I lived in that castle for 3 years and restored an old room in there that hadn't been lived in 800 years. Wow. I took out donkey bones and restored and made it beautiful, keep a holy place holy. And keep it clean. So that's what I did. That was my job, was to keep the castle clean. And I hung out with these young Arab kids. They love me because of the drums. I love all people. Yeah. And that's the way Ronnie was. I love African American people. I love Mexican American people. I love gay people. You know, Ronnie's feeling was, and my feeling is, if you're a good person, right, then you're a good person. And it doesn't matter what color your skin is. Right. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you're a good person, then you're a good person.
That's right.
And that's the way I feel and always will. You know, some people say, well, he's a left-wing liberal hippie. You know, well, I probably am. You know, but I can take a fly off a fence post at 500 meters. You know, with a Glock. So I'm not completely left-wing liberal. I believe in the Second Amendment. You know, absolutely. And I don't think anybody's coming to take anybody's guns. My thing is to keep an AR-15 military assault rifle out of the hands of a nut that's going to go out and murder 30 children.
Sure.
And who goes hunting, who goes deer hunting with a military-style assault rifle? And if you do, you need to be locked up.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's not the way nature intended. But as far as taking people's guns away, no. Hell no. That's our Second Amendment.
Right.
I don't have any weapons myself. In the Marine Corps, you know, with training to go to Vietnam, I never did go, but I had orders in my hand to go to Vietnam, and I was checked out on every weapon. And I didn't want to have to kill somebody. I didn't want to be killed. But if I would have gone to Vietnam, I would have survived. I'm a survivor, you know, and I would have, you know, made it happen.
You know, speaking of that, I want to talk about the title track of the soundtrack. This song, if you're out there watching this, you need to check out the title track of the movie. This thing is incredible. It really is hard hitting. If it had come out on a Skynyrd album back in the 70s, this thing would have been a #1 hit. You know, your guitar players and joined by Warren Haynes.
The great and awesome and powerful wizard of guitar, Warren Haynes. Everybody loves him. I love him. So he grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, with Jerry Lida and Scott Rains, who co-wrote this song. And of course, the band, we all got in there. David Fowler, our bass player, and our Brad Durden, who was in a band called Copperhead. Remember Copperhead? Sure. And Brad, they worked under Tom Dowd, the great producer Tom Dowd. But, you know, I told him what I wanted. I wanted an up-tempo, screaming guitar harmonies, killer Southern rock harmonies, you know, and a big fat John Bonham beat.
Sure.
And that's what we delivered in time to get onto the movie soundtrack. We delivered it, and we went in the studio in Winston-Salem, Ovation Studios, and we cut this song. We were in there for 16 hours, and we hammered it out. And I told the guys, I said, we've got to finish it today.
Yeah. So
we finished it. We got it on the soundtrack. I thank you for bringing that up, because it is a bona fide Southern rock hit.
Absolutely.
You know, this song rocks. Now, because of COVID, our movie may get passed over a little bit for recognition. Our soundtrack may. But, you know, once we get back up and running, we're able to play live gigs again. APB is going to be playing our regular Skynyrd set, and we're going to add Street Survivors in, and Street Survivor. And I tell the band never to introduce it as a song that we wrote. As a musician, you know, anytime you go up, ladies and gentlemen, here's a song we wrote, everybody goes out and has a cigarette. That's right. You know,
or here's a brand new song.
Yeah, here's a brand new song. Oh man, hey, you gonna cut your toenails this week, man? You know, it's like you know they're not interested. But if you throw the song in, and this is the way you do it, if you throw the song into the set, and you don't make a big deal about it, you know, a lot of people come up and they go, man, is that a Skynyrd song? We really love that.
Right.
And they notice it. You don't have to say, hey, notice this song. And people do. They love that song when we perform it live. And I love to play it. Because as I told you a while ago, Lee, members of our road crew and band to help me write the part for this song. I said, if you guys are hearing something that I could do that's really cool, that I could execute, you tell me what it is and I'll try to execute it.
Right.
So they did, I did, we did, and now you did. But it came out great. So
really
I don't mind saying 5 people helped me write the drum track to that. Usually I write my own tracks. But that was my deal with Ronnie Van Zant. He said, Artemis, you can write your own tracks. And if they suck, we'll change them. And I said, that's a deal, man. That's a deal.
We also always didn't you always say give credit where credit's due.
Ronnie said that, and I believe that. I believe that 100%. Give credit where credit's due. And
I got to tell you again, for everybody out there watching this, check out that soundtrack, especially that title track. It really is good, and the movie again, so incredibly personal to you. But watch it. The music in there is incredible. It really is, and even though it's not Skinnerd, for somebody who doesn't know Skinnerd music, it's very Skinnerdy, if I can use that word.
It feels close, but it's not like we're ripping off the music.
Right.
Because believe me, if it was anywhere near, you've seen all these lawsuits that have been out there in the last couple of decades. If somebody uses a song that sounds like something else and they got that idea, there'll be a lawsuit saying, "Oh, you stole that idea." But we wanted to make the songs rock and be legitimate without somebody saying, "Oh man, that you stole that from this." Mm-hmm. So it's very, what'd you say, Skinnerdy?
Skinnerdy.
I think that's a new phrase that we'll use, Skinnerdy.
Skinnerdy.
Oh, and I just want to mention this, by the way.
Sure.
Because I said everybody else. I like white people too.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up.
Well, I wanted to ask you about having your kid. How important was to have your kids on the soundtrack?
Oh man, it meant the world to me, because they have lived this plane crash their whole lives. Mm-hmm. They thought I had been killed. My son Chris, he was old enough to remember that, and that he was wondering if I had survived because it's all over the news.
Right.
And then my son Marshall, who was named after the Marshall Tucker Band and the Charlie Daniels Band.
Right.
My son, that's a great songwriter, both of them are. His name is Marshall Daniel Pyle. And Christopher Chappell Pyle, my oldest son, Ronnie loved him. The whole band loved him. He was on the road with us. And we always, thanked God that none of our children were on the plane. Right. Because some of the children had flown with us on some of our legs. Mm-hmm. If it was a short hop, we'd have the kids fly with us, and none of the children were on board that day. And I even had a dog, a German Shepherd, that used to fly with us. I named him Frank Zappa because Frank Zappa was a friend of mine, and I'm a big Frank Zappa fan.
Right.
And I named him Zappa, and we called him Zappa the Flying Wonder Dog. And he wasn't on board either. And so we were lucky in that it was just the adult contingency that had to go down, and 26 people on board, 6 people died on impact.
Yes.
And I was able to walk from the plane crash and go get help and bring help back to the crash site, which, meant a lot to me because I thought I was dying.
Did you black out?
I never blacked out. I have never been knocked out. I've had 3 airplane crashes, multiple motorcycle wrecks, car wrecks. I've been shot. I've been stabbed. I've never lost consciousness under those circumstances. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I've got a hard head. And
I can just imagine chaos.
And it was very chaotic, after finding the pilot and co-pilot, and they were torn up completely. But when I saw their bodies, I realized that it was just flesh and blood, that their souls had
absolutely
had already left. Their souls had already ascended, mm-hmm. and it was just flesh and blood. And that's the bodies that we live in. So it didn't freak me out. I was able to just see what I saw and realize that I needed to go for help.
Right.
Because everybody was bleeding. Every drop of blood was a second toward closer to death, and every step that I could take. So I put my Marine Corps training, and I've told this story before.
Sure.
I put my Marine Corps training foremost and focused, and got through those trees and through the swamp and the water, over the barbed wire, through the field to the farmhouse. And and the farmer, I was covered in blood. I looked like Charles Manson. The guy goes, "Hey, halt." And I couldn't stop. I was stumbling forward, and he fired and hit me right here. Something stung me right there, and I was already in shock from the plane crash. But I did it. It was like a bee sting, but it spun me, and I went to the ground and I yelled plane crash. And then Johnny Moat, the farmer, ran over and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Now Johnny says he didn't shoot me, but he told Jake Tapper. He said, Jake Tapper, from CNN.
Sure.
He used to be with VH1, and Jake goes, "Well, now Johnny, did you have a gun?" "Yes." "So did you point it at Artemis?" "Yes." "Did you pull the trigger?" And he goes, "Yes." And Jake goes, "Well, how can you say you didn't shoot him?" And he goes, "Oh, it must have been a ricochet." And I don't give a damn what it was. I heard a gunshot. I'm in shock. In the Marine Corps, they tell you when you hear gunfire, make a low target. So I spun, went to the ground to make, a smaller target. And so, Johnny, I always make a joke that, people are talking to Johnny Moat, the farmer, and they go, "Hey, man, I heard Leonard Skinner crashed on your farm." And he goes, "Yeah, one of them survived, but don't worry, I shot him." And he didn't want to be that guy.
Sure.
Because for all he knew, it was the last Leonard Skinner member alive. And a lot of us lived. 19 people.
19 people.
And usually in an airplane crash like that, when we spiral in from 9,000 feet and hit the ground real fast and real hard, usually people don't walk away. Nobody lives.
Right.
And it was a miracle. And, and so...
Which is incredibly portrayed in the movie. I thought
it is.
Very well done.
It's dynamically very intense.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to know what we went through.
Yeah. How much of that specific scene or scenes in the movie did you have to do with? Did they come to you for reference, and all of those things? What did they come to you to be the reference point on that?
Well, as I said, I spent 22 hours with the director in Los Angeles.
Gotcha.
And I told him every detail of what I remembered, going back and forth to the cockpit, what I was seeing from the cockpit,
Sure.
What I was seeing happening in the cockpit, going back and telling all the band members, put out all your damn cigarettes, turn off power, conserve anything that we've got left, buckle in. I was playing stewardess. Mm-hmm. And the pilot and co-pilot saved my life because I strapped myself into the jump seat between the co-pilot and the pilot,
right.
And I was going to ride it down.
Yeah.
And the pilot, Walter McCreary, turned around and said, "Artemis, you better go back and strap yourself in." And I could see in his eyes, he was freaked.
Yeah.
And I just got up like a zombie and walked back to the first seat I came to on the left aisle, over the left wing, on the aisle, behind Cassie Gaines,
right.
Next to Don Kretschmeyer, one of our guys that worked for Showco. Mm-hmm. Because we were about to get rid of our old reciprocal plane,
right.
And we were going to get a Learjet for just the band, mm-hmm. where our flight time would be 45 minutes instead of 2.5 hours. And then buy 2 brand new tour buses, one for our road crew and one for the girls, our backup singers. Because there were times when we couldn't afford to take the girls out with us.
Right.
But we were going to buy them a brand new bus, let them design it, and have their own bus and their own codes to get in the bus so the crew wouldn't try to get them.
Right.
Because the girls, they were all beautiful, so the crew was always trying to get them.
Right.
And a couple of band members were trying to get them. I never got them. That's the truth. I was like a big brother to all the girls, and
right.
never tried to go anywhere other than be a friend.
Right. And you were talking about how scared your kids were. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember after the crash, when you first saw your kids after the crash?
Well, yeah. Well, Marshall was a baby. But, when I finally got home from Mississippi and, Chris could tell that I was injured. Now, his song, and it was all good. Mm-hmm. It's all good. Nothing morbid, very, very emotional,
sure.
but all good. But the song that Chris wrote, it's called Black Creek. And it talks about the plane crash. And it talks about trying to get some justice, trying to get some peace. He talked about attorneys, how if you got enough money, you can buy justice,
Right.
But not your dignity.
Right.
You can buy all this stuff. So that's all in the song. Mm-hmm. And it talks about a place that's actually outside of Jacksonville, Florida, called Black Creek, and in Middleburg, Florida. And down on Black Creek, the water there gets real deep. You don't want to go swimming there, no. Because if you disappear, nobody cares. Yeah. That's the line that he wrote. And it's very much about Jacksonville, how Jacksonville, Florida can eat you alive. But I love Jacksonville. The beaches, the intercoastal waterways, the temperature. My other place that I love to live is St. Augustine.
Oh yeah, beautiful down there.
And that's where one of my daughters lives, Kelly Lucille, and she had a little baby, and that little baby is called Lucille Love. That's my granddaughter. I got her a killer little set of drums, and she's only 2, but she's already doing it. And then my granddaughter Cadence, I got her 2 sets of drums. Little scaled down set of Ludwigs, and then there's a kit that was left at a house that they rented that was a set of vintage 1962 Ludwig drums, marine pearl with all the original hardware. So one of those seats that you can't fold down or adjust. It's like a seat. You open the top and you put that old hardware inside, and she'll be able to use it someday. But Cadence is a monster little drummer. She's even got the drum face where she goes. When she's playing.
That's got to be incredibly emotional for you, surviving the plane crash, and then all these years later, on a soundtrack to a movie, playing with your kids, and your kids are writing songs about your plane crash.
It's amazing, Lee, and it's very cathartic because for 40-something years, I've carried this plane crash around, and I've been very sad. And now that the movie has come out, my world, the Skynyrd world, I'm not saying Skynyrd is everywhere in the world. It is, but it's not to everybody in the world. But in my world, the world of Lynyrd Skynyrd, now I have all these people that help me share the burden. Mm-hmm. And, even my youngest son, River, that's up at Appalachian State University in Boone, he's studying sustainable environmental things. He's got about a year left, and he's unbelievably intelligent. He takes after his mother, not me, and he plays drums great. He plays keyboards. He plays guitar. He loves motorcycles. I bought a brand new Harley, and he took over it and said, "Dad, I could get to class real easy on your new Harley." And it's now got 13,000 miles, and I put on 800 of them. But I want him to have it.
Sure.
I want him to have it. So when I've done jams where I've got my daughter, my granddaughter, all 3 of my sons, and my grandson playing music together on stage. The last place we did it together like that was the Salvage Station in Asheville, North Carolina, a really cool venue on the river down there. And so it's awesome to play with my children.
Sure.
And for them to, be a part of the movie and the soundtrack to give their perspective on how it made them feel.
That's amazing.
So I'm very proud of everybody involved. Cleopatra, my family, my band. Yeah. APB out of Asheville that wrote that song. Thank you for bringing that up. Street Survivor. It is a monster Southern rock hit. And Scott Rains sings his butt off on that. And
I want to ask you a question about.
You going to ask me a question?
I'm going to ask you a question. If Artemis Powell from 2020 could go back and tell Artemis Powell from 1974 something important, what would you tell him?
Invest.
Invest.
No matter how hard it would be to put money aside, invest in something. I used to have, on the tribute tour, I invested money. We made a lot of money on that tribute tour when I came back from Jerusalem, Israel. And I invested in Squibb, Hewlett Packard, and IBM. And my manager at the time stole all of that money, sold the stock, cashed it in, stole the money. You know, that musicians, I know I'm speaking for myself, are idiots when you let these managers,
Sure.
oh man, we've got your best interest. They don't. Sometimes they do. I'm not saying don't trust anybody, but, you know, if I could talk to me back then, I would just say, you know, make sure that the money that you earn, don't steal any money, don't take anything that's not yours. But what you've earned, invest it wisely, and you know, and put that back for your family.
Right.
Because I'm a multimillionaire, and everything that I've earned has been stolen. You know, so, and you know, I sound like I'm whining and crying. I'm happy. I'm a happy person. I love life. I love every day. I love playing drums. I love being outdoors. I love animals. I'm a horse whisperer. You know, life is incredible.
Right.
You know, and so I have no regrets. The one regret that I have, and I'll be very honest, is I wish I would have been faithful to my first wife. I was a dog, and once you fall off that bandwagon, you can't go back. Once you're unfaithful, you can't go back and be faithful.
Yeah.
And I'd give anything to be the guy still married to my wife. That girl that was so sweet that I loved and fell in love with and married in my Marine Corps dress blues. And we had 2 sons, Chris and Marshall. We're still great friends. And we're only friends because of the character of her, the grace of her character. She's such a good person. We're still great friends. She has every reason to hate me, but she doesn't, because I was an unfaithful husband. And I'm not bragging. You know, I would like to not be an unfaithful husband. But once you fall off that horse, you know, it's hard to get back on. But we're very good friends. But that's what I would say would be my biggest regret, that I didn't realize then how great it would be to still be married to that girl and be able to look her in the eye and you know. But I was a dog. I'd be on the road 8-9 months with Skynyrd. Some gorgeous girl would walk up somewhere and she'd be like, "Hello, I like you. Do you like me?" You know, and I'd be like, "I think I am." It's like, you know, one of my favorite movies, man, is Dewey Cox.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great movie. Yeah.
Oh man, you don't want any of this. I think I do.
Well, I want to ask you one more question before I let you go. If you had to look at it from your kids, from being the drummer of one of the most incredible bands of all time, when you finally hang up the sticks, what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, first I have to, tell you first, I'm going to play drums till I'm 100.
Gotcha.
Then I'm going to switch to stand-up comedy.
Okay.
And I'm going to live to be 115 years old. And I'm going to play drums as long as I can play it right.
Right.
Now at 100, they may bring me out on some late night TV show and they go, "Ladies and gentlemen, watch this. This is amazing. This guy's 100 years old and he can still play drums." I'll be a novelty. You know, I might not be in a touring band, but I plan on playing, you know, and as I say, things could change. I mean, you know, I'm 72. When I'm 82, I may have some physical limitations where I can't play the Skynyrd stuff the way it's supposed to be played.
Right.
And I don't want to play it wrong.
Sure.
Right now, I play it the way it's supposed to be played. And every song is different. No 2 Skynyrd songs are the same. The nuances, the dynamics, they get fast. The tempos, they slow. Everything, there's these little holes. I love it. I love playing Lynyrd Skynyrd music.
Sure.
I love playing Bob Burns drum parts. One of my favorite drum parts to play is I Ain't the One. you know, because it's such a piece to play. And stuff that I played on Saturday Night Special, you know, it's such a cool piece. The 5/4 bar goes to 3/4, back to 4/4, then to 5/4 again.
Sure.
It's not easy to play, and I love the challenge, and I'll play it as long as I can play it right. So, you know, I want my legacy to be, you know, that I was first and foremost that I was the father of 5 incredible children, and so far counting 3 incredible grandchildren. That's the biggest thing I've done in my life, is to have these brilliant children in spite of my dumbass. Okay, they're amazing. The other legacy would be that I'm a, you know, United States Marine Corps sergeant, honorably discharged from the Marines. I was going to fly jets for them. Then my dad was killed, and my whole life changed. I went from being a captain in the Marines to a drummer in a rock band.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't change anything, so I wouldn't change a thing. But the legacy, and then, you know, after a father and a Marine, I would say that I am the drummer of the greatest Southern rock band that ever lived, and that's Ronnie. And I want to, you know, qualify that by saying, out of all the Southern rock bands, and that, you know, Charlie Daniels, Marshall Tucker, Wet Willie. Later on, you got your Molly Hatchets, and you got your, even Blackberry Smoke. They remind me a lot of us when we were young.
Sure.
The long hair and the blue jeans and the flannel shirts. That was us. You know, we didn't wear stage clothes. But I would like to be known as the drummer of, you know, the greatest Southern rock band, because of all the Southern rock bands, I would say that Ronnie Van Zant's music is the best. He wrote the most hits, and I don't think any of the Southern rock bands would disagree with that. Marshall Tucker or anybody, that Ronnie was the man. But the Allman Brothers are not in that. The Allman Brothers they're not a Southern rock band. They're in a category all their own.
Absolutely.
They're Southern rock, Southern jazz, Southern blues, Southern country. They are everything.
Right.
And I love and respect that band. And Greg was a friend of mine. J-Mo is a friend of mine. Butch Trucks was a good friend of mine. I knew the guys.
Sure.
And I love that band. So I want to qualify that by saying, you know, Southern rock bands. Well,
Right.
they're not Southern rock. They're Southern everything.
Right.
But Ronnie was number one. And
I'm sure all those other bands would agree with that.
you heard what I said you heard what I said at the end of the movie. I said I want it known that Ronnie Van Zant was the undisputed leader of Lynyrd Skynyrd. And that makes me also say it would have been so great to see Steve Gaines and Ronnie write a few more albums together.
Sure.
And Ronnie would have collaborated with everybody. He probably would have done an album with Jamie. He would have done with Chris Stapleton, with a lot of these guys that are coming out of Nashville that are real writers, that are really good. You know, they don't write that, you know, that Nashville stuff that for a while there, all that was coming out of Nashville, whether it was a woman or a man, it'd be like a little, you know, little intro, you know, and then little soft intro, you know, and then this big build up, well, deedle deedle dee, and a deedle deedle doo, and a deedle, you know, to the stupid hook, you know, and every one of those songs sound the same.
Right.
But stuff that like Chris Stapleton, you know, and Jamie Johnson, all those guys, man, they're real writers, and they write stuff with substance.
Sure.
And I appreciate that, because I was, you know, roommates with a guy all over the world named Ronnie Van Zant, who was Substance.
Right.
And so, you know, that's my legacy, is father, Marine, drummer.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time.
And idiot.
Oh, no. I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been an honor to have you here in the studio with us. And I just, I want to tell everybody out there, please go check out the movie, check out the soundtrack. You can go to Cleopatra Entertainment and order that soundtrack. And check out Artemis. You can check him out on Facebook. And do you have a website?
Well, now, as I say, I've never touched a computer in my life.
Right.
But I don't own one. I know my phone is a computer, but my band, Jerry Lida, Brad Durden, David Fowler, and Jerry Lida, they set up, they're all whizzes on computers, and they set up ArtemisPyleBand.com.
Okay.
And I just want to mention that, David Fowler, who's from Madison County, North Carolina area and everything, he introduced me a few years ago to Dolly Parton. And I'm like every other man in the world in love with Dolly Parton. But Dolly and I feel we've had a few shows together, and she knows me and she knows some people from my family.
Sure.
We're from the same part of Tennessee. I'm related to Alvin C. York, the World War I war hero that captured all the German soldiers. And Dolly and I know some mutual family members, and I think we've become kind of friends. And I've had a few pictures taken with Dolly that it looks like a prom. I'm standing there like, I'm with my prom date, and she is so friendly and so genuine and so real. I don't see how she does it. She spends time with everybody. Mm-hmm. And so we just opened up for her at the Ryman Auditorium before COVID-19 hit.
Right.
And we did Sweet Home Alabama, Freebird, and Simple Man. And we took the roof. That place was packed. And we took the roof off the Ryman, and Dolly could hear us from her side of the stage, and she was all smiles. And we raised money for children, mm-hmm. and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that video is on YouTube, by the way. People can check that out.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And so, see, I don't see any. I don't go to Facelips or YouTube, InnerTube. It's InnerTube and Facelips. I don't do any of that stuff. But when the timeline is when we finished the movie and got through the Court of Appeals, we opened up for Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, not ZZ Top, but Billy and his other band.
Sure.
In Las Vegas, February the 16th. They rented me a really fast convertible Mustang, and I drove from Vegas to LA and attended the February 17th red carpet premiere of our movie to a packed house with all of the actors and actresses. Awesome. And the director and the sound people. Everybody was there. I met everybody. I met all of the people that portrayed us, their mothers and fathers. Apologize for the nudity, and had a great time. And then that night at midnight, I got on a red eye and flew to Nashville, rehearsed with the band at SIR Productions in Nashville. Then we drove to Florida and got on a ship and went 4 days out at sea and did our Rock Legends cruise that we do every year for the Native American Heritage Association. And when we hit back on America, it was March 1st.
Wow.
And you realize March 1st is when it hit the fan.
That's when it hit the fan.
When the spaghetti hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this place. It was great to meet all your friends.
Well, thank you very
Roger
much.
And Bill that provided the food.
Yeah, shout out to Bill.
Such a gentleman. Shout out to Bill. Yep. And I am going to take a to-go plate.
Well, thank you again.
You have a beautiful shop, your studio upstairs, your radio station. This is a musician's dream, this place.
Well, thank you. We do our best here, and we again appreciate you stopping by today. And everybody, go check out ArtemisPyleBand.com. Check that out, and of course, check out Facebook for Guitar Wishes. Check out our YouTube channel and GuitarWishes.com. And for everybody here, we'll talk to you soon.
I love Gary. I miss Gary. We played for the kings and queens of rock and roll of the world together.
Artist, I want to thank you very much for coming out and hanging out with us here today, and God bless you. And I want to thank you for what you did for our country too, and serving our country too. What you did. So
you're certainly welcome, and God bless you as well.
Absolutely, Artemis Pyle, ladies and gentlemen, right here on WLON 107.5 and 1050. Tim Johnson here with you. We're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be back right here on WLON 107.5 and 1050 AM.
So are we going to cut tracks today?
No, we just wanted to show you. Check this out.
Man, you guys have an amazing little. This is a real studio. This is great, man. This is the house kit.
Yes, the house kit. Yes, sir.
Man, they are beautiful. You got the snare drum tuned for recording, right?
Oh yeah. That's one way to get it happening. Huh?
Killer, man.
Sweet. I love that burl.
Instead of rolling
Guys, this is
electronics.
just such a great space, man.
A lot of groups have been through here, man.
Feels good in here, doesn't it?
This is a great space. You been up here? Man.
Now, Artemis, I didn't get to introduce you. This is our movie producer, our TV producer. This is John Landolfi.
John, nice to meet you. Where are
John's
you
got-
from?
Jersey, originally.
From Jersey? Yeah.
I'm in Carolina now.
Played all over Jersey and Homedale.
Homedale.
Homedale, Jersey. That's where Ed King lived.
Yeah,
The,
exactly.
the great
Yep.
Ed King.
Absolutely.
He lived in Homedale for quite a while. Then, of course, he was in Nashville when he passed.
Yes.
All the promoters, would come in and they bring in a big box of scotch and just a box of Jack Daniels and cases of beer and cartons of cigarettes. And at every venue, every single night, we'd play an arena someplace, and the backstage looked like a liquor store. And the guys in the band, they thought, well, this is all ours, and we need to smoke and drink everything that's here. Everything, and the food displays, they'd eat what they want, and the rest of it would end up on the wall. Thrown against the wall. And I said, wait a minute, don't throw the fruit tray, man. Let me get that first.
That's crazy.
I remember when I got my Strawberry Alarm Clock album, when I realized Ed was in Skinner, and it was him and Strawberry Alarm Clock, because I'm sitting there looking at it going, well, that's the guys in Skinner, And I still got that album, the Strawberry Alarm Clock album.
Well, the bass player, Lee Freeman,
Right.
that played for Strawberry Alarm Clock, sometimes when Billy Powell, when Ronnie would knock out Billy's teeth,
Right.
and Billy would have to fly back to Jacksonville to get some new teeth and everything, we'd be on the West Coast, so Lee would come out and play harmonica solos.
I've seen a video of that with him playing harmonica with you.
Where every place that Billy played
Yeah.
a keyboard solo, right?
Okay.
Lee would come in and
That explains it, man, because I wonder where Billy was. I've seen that video. I don't know where y'all were playing, but Billy wasn't there.
that's right.
Right, so that's the story. He was getting some teeth.
Yeah, Billy had to go back and see his own dentist.
Right.
Skinner's music was a big part of the movie Forrest Gump, and I showed you a poster earlier that we had upstairs signed by Tom Hanks.
Oh man, yeah, that's insane.
And we're going to give this to
Because
you.
Ronnie would have. Oh no, you can't do that. You cannot do that. This thing was signed by Tom Hanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Is that
Dude.
beautiful or what?
That's it's real beautiful, but you can't give me that, man.
It was
Yeah.
a pleasure having you at Guitar
Yeah.
Wishes
Yep.
Man,
in the Sound Factory Studios,
are
man.
you kidding me, man?
No.
Yes, sir. That's you, brother.
When I watch this movie, the first thing I think about are those songs. And so it was an honor to have you here.
It's just amazing, man, because Ronnie would have loved so much to know that in a movie, one of the greatest movies of all time, that he had two songs in that movie when he's teaching Jenny how to dance, and when Jenny was going to commit suicide, and then Freebird was playing, and she decided not to. And I thought that was so cool. Two kind of positive things in the movie. Are you kidding me?
No,
Yes, sir.
we thank you very much for your time. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
Thank you so much, Hermes. Thank you for everything you've done with us.
I promise you will not see this on eBay or anything. that's like unbelievable, man. There is a special place in my home for that. My son is going to flip out. All of my sons are going to flip out. I mean, there it is, Tom.
Life's like a box of chocolates. Look, I got Lee's seat now. He's been replaced.
I've been replaced. It's okay.
Is he rolling?
Are you rolling?
So here we are, man. Thank you so much, Roger.
You're very welcome, brother.
Unbelievable.
Appreciate your journey. I really do.
I just happen to have my van with me
I'll carry it down to your van for you.
that will.
Hold that and the fish.
Yeah. Oh no, man. I made out today, man. I made out. Hey, can I come again tomorrow?
Yes, sir. We want
some-
when the book's ready, completely ready. We want you to come back and do
Get some more
your
stuff.
signing.
Well, here's the little thing on the book. My book is finished.
Mm-hmm.
It's 25 chapters, 380 pages, 125,000 words, references in the back. It's a real book. Every word in the book is my words. I wrote it with a guy named Dean Goodman, who wrote for Reuters and Associated Press.
Right.
So that all of my ramblings, he put them in what they call continuity.
Right.
So it's just not a rambling, and he helped me put the continuity into the book. And I've already got somebody that said they would publish it. But here's the deal: I'm probably only going to do one movie in my whole life, and I just did it, and it's a lot. It's 3-4 years time, and trying to roll it out, especially during coronavirus. So I just decided to roll out one humongous project at a time, which is the movie and the soundtrack, and then at some point I'll roll out my book.
Well, one of the things that'd be really cool to do, and John Snyder's been doing this. Bo Duke from Dukes of Hazzard comes in. And,
I love him, man.
Well, he's been on the show and he's come in and done
Oh,
things
has
with
he?
us. Yes, sir. And he just finished a movie called Stand On It. It's the remake of Smokey and the Bandit. And they're going to roll it out at drive-in movie theaters, and his band's going to play before the movies debut at drive-in movie
That's
theaters.
what we were doing.
Well, you've got one of the biggest ones around here, right at the Hounds movie theater, driving movie
Here in
theater.
Lincoln?
It's in Kings Mountain, one of the largest theaters. So he's talking about throwing it around right now, doing that debut. It'd be nice if we could go in there and do your movie, because I know it's in digital format, and have them show the movie, but sell tickets for the event, have your band play at the foot of the screen first. People are in their cars, so it's safe.
We would love to do. We did that on the ship, where we were behind the screen. They played the movie, and then the screen went up, and we went right into Street Survivor, the
Right.
song, and started our set off. And we were going to do that at venues all over America. But then COVID hit, and everything kind of rescheduled or shut
So
down.
it's not affecting that, though.
Yeah.
That wouldn't affect it in a drive-in movie.
Man, keep us in mind for that.
Yeah.
Because if you guys, man, you would love my band. There's 5 of us, and for just 5, I'd like to get some backup singers.
Wall of sound.
It's a wall of sound, and I'd like to get 3 girls. I told them, I said I'd like to get 3 black chicks, because that was Clyde E. King and Mary Clayton, that sang on Sweet Home Alabama, and all the band members. Well, I'm the only one not married. All the wives said, no backup singers. So one day when I decide, to do it,
We can help you with that when you get ready.
I will have a couple of backup singers.
Well, we can help you with that. Some of the backup singers that come into the Sound Factory, amazing.
Is that what that's called up
Yeah,
there?
the Sound Factory Studios.
Yeah, I'd like to get some girls, and that would make, because that makes those sound. Ooh, that smell.
Oh, yeah.
Can't you smell that smell? And all the stuff that's in the songs. I wrote an arrangement for Dolly Parton to do Freebird on her next rock album. She's going to do an album, put a rock song on it, because Carl, her husband, loves rock. So I wrote this arrangement where the slide gets so low that Gary Rossington does. Oh, let Dolly do that with her voice.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
And let her stack it. And then when she finishes that intro, if I leave here tomorrow, with her beautiful little voice, big voice, because she's only that tall.
Oh, yeah.
And
Waist that big around.
her waist is that big around. And let her do that. And then the end, the ba 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 ba. Now, at the end, that could be all with flat top and dobro and banjo and mandolin, and really stomp it, man.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And let that be the end of Freebird. But Dolly liked the arrangement, but then COVID hit, so we kind of backed off on a few of those little projects, which I'm not going to forget them.
Well, I just really think that the drive-in movie theater is the way out for musicians right now, especially musicians that can't take their craft to the public. That's the whole reason they do it anyway. It's not over the money. That's the secondary.
We miss it. We miss playing. We played a month ago or so at the Largo Performing Arts Center in Largo, Florida, and half capacity, socially distanced. And it felt so good to play. And the people there, they hadn't seen a show in 6 months, and they were just loving the band. And
well, the crowd is your drug. It really is.
It really is.
It feeds the soul, man. When you're out there performing, that's what makes you sparkle.
And my whole life has been performing for people. Since I was in junior high school, my whole life has been performing with a band. And when COVID hit and that just stopped, everything just.
It's a numb feeling at that point.
It's a strange feeling, but now I still play my drums every day, and with all my sons, they come in, we jam. I jammed last night with my son Marshall, so I'm still getting to play, and everything. But it's that live thing. We played a little gig at Catawba Brewing there in Morganton, an outdoor show. They block off the street. Everybody's socially distanced. We set up on the parking lot, And they brought in a killer sound and light show. No stage, but killer sound and lights. And and I played last weekend in Greensboro, North Carolina, at a place called South End Brewing with a Allman Brothers band. They do Allman Brothers and Beatles, which I love.
Oh, yeah.
And they're called Wristband, an album that I recorded in Winston-Salem. And it's one of the most beautiful country southern rock albums I've ever played on. And this guy paid me to come in, I'll let that go. He paid me to come in and play on his album. And after about a year, I said, man, what are you going to do with all these songs I'm playing on? And he goes, I'm going to make an album. And the album's called Down Home. And it's got 3 songs about whiskey. It's got a song in there about fried chicken. And about a little story about a little kid. He's little, he goes in and he says, Grandpa, what are we going to have for dinner? And the grandpa sings, fried chicken, so tender and sweet. Fried chicken, and I like dark meat. Fried chicken, and it's this little ditty. Then he grows up, he's the grandpa. And his grandchildren come in and they say, what are we having for supper? And he sings the ditty to them. It's a really beautiful little cute story. It's got a
we could have had Church's chicken in there, and then we could have brought Bill in.
Church's chicken. Yeah. So tender and sweet.
Yeah. You never know what you're going to get till you walk into Guitar Wishes.
That's so beautiful, man. And see, I was Gomer Pyle in the Marines when I was training to go to Vietnam, which I didn't go.
Golly.
But I was fully trained. I was the guy that in ITR, Infantry Training Regiment, out in California, and in boot camp, they'd see my name tag, Pyle. And that's right when Gomer left Andy Griffith.
Right.
So, they see my name tag and they made me in front of 400 men. I'd have to come up. They go, I'd see the DIs. Watch this. Pyle. And I'd come running up, locked down. Sir. In the Marine Corps, you have to say sir before and after everything. Sir. Golly. Shazam. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Hey, Sarge. Those 4 things, as loud and as country as I could say them. And if I didn't do it right the first time, they'd make me do it again. So I got to where I'd come out there, man, and I'd lock down. I'd go, golly, man, and these dudes would be falling out on the ground. And I figure if I gave a belly laugh to a guy that went to Vietnam and gave his life for this country, no problem.
Right.
He can laugh at me all he wants. And I had a lot of friends that went to Vietnam, came back very differently. And I had some friends that went to Vietnam and didn't come back. So, life is good.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Let me give you a seat back, please. Oh, I'm good.
Oh, now do we have to do Freebird?
Freebird.
Well, here it is.
bruising.